Hello and welcome to the training on the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme, or FIRS for short, for Club and Society Committee members. My name is Henry and I'm the People and Governance Manager at the SU. Please don't worry if you've never heard of FIRS, we very much wouldn't expect you to have, and all will be explained through the course of this training. Obviously this is being recorded and you can come back and watch this video or view the slides at any point. So the aims of this session. By the end of the session, you should understand the aim and purpose of the scheme, what foreign influence looks like, and when and how this needs to be reported, and also your specific responsibilities as committee members. So this is what we'll cover today. It may look like quite a lot, but we will get through it pretty quickly. So beginning with, the essentials. What is FIRS? So the National Security Act 2023 introduced the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme, FIRS, and this came into effect on the 1st of July 2025. So it aims to record foreign activity and foreign influence agreements between people in the UK and foreign actors, these being states, organisations and people that direct those in the UK to carry out relevant activities here in the UK. So the scheme is not intended as a register of people or organisations for surveillance purposes. It's not designed to prevent or discourage any of the activities that require reporting. The government's aim is simply to improve transparency around activities that are directed by foreign powers. So the scheme won't have impact on your, right to express their views, nor will it prevent anyone from engaging in political influence activities. Just simply requires openness and transparency around such activities when undertaken at the direction of a foreign power. Obviously, this is a very important piece of legislation as demonstrated by the maximum penalties for non-compliance, which are 2 to 5 years imprisonment. For clarity, non-compliance is failing to report an arrangement, and as a charity, it is the trustees of the SU who bear the collective legal responsibility for registration and the possible penalties. You are at no risk of those, maximum prison terms. It is the trustees, as I said, who are responsible for this, but it's purely to make you aware and to convey the importance of this scheme and compliance with it. What is registration? So the register itself, it's public and it's transparent, but personal information can and will be redacted. So the following information is required at registration in all cases. So a description of the nature and form of the arrangement, the name of the foreign power directing the activity, description of the activities to be undertaken, including their nature, purpose, and any sort of outcomes, details of the start and end dates of the activities, details of the individuals or entities who will be carrying out the activities, and details related to the registrant, including address and contact details. In this case, that is us, the SU. So registration of an arrangement or activity doesn't in itself mean that it's necessarily illegitimate or undesirable, and FIRS doesn't prevent any activity from taking place, provided the arrangements are transparent. Related activities can proceed as normal, and registering with the scheme doesn't mean that the individual is a spy or engaged in any undesirable or unlawful activity or anything like that. And there's as I said, no automatic requirement to cease or alter the arrangement upon its registration. So we make the registration as the SU. Obviously we can only do that if you provide all of the necessary information, and I'll talk about that a bit more later. So what needs to be registered? So any arrangement with a foreign power to carry out political influence activities in the UK, this is the political influence tier, and I'll talk about both tiers a bit later as well. And any arrangement with a specified foreign power, in this case it's currently Russia and Iran, to conduct a wider set of activities. This is the enhanced tier. So registration is required when all of the below 4 conditions are met that you can see on screen. There is an arrangement, whether formal or informal, with a foreign power. The arrangement involves a direction from the foreign power. The direction is to carry out political influence activities in the UK, and no exemptions apply to the arrangement or activities. And the words you see in quotes there, foreign power, direction, political influence activities, I will explain in greater detail what these mean as well. So under the scheme, it's the arrangement itself that must be registered, not the individual activity that will be carried out. So the 2 tiers. The first one is political influence tier. This requires the registration of arrangements with any foreign power, with the exception of the Republic of Ireland, to carry out political influence activities in the UK. This includes any arrangement made by a foreign power to direct student activity for the sake of political influence. So, for example, attempts to influence UK elections, referenda, or governmental decisions. The direction could take the form of financial support or other benefits promised by foreign powers in exchange for carrying out political influence activity. This could be a formal agreement, such as a contract, or an informal agreement, such as an email or other correspondence. And arrangements under this tier need to be registered within 28 days of the agreement being made, or within 28 days of the introduction of the scheme for pre-existing arrangements. And yeah, as I've mentioned before, the maximum penalty for failure to comply with this tier is 2 years imprisonment. So, while the majority of student political campaigning would not require registrations, students would have to register political campaigning activities under this tier if those activities were directed by a foreign power, they constituted political influence activities. Again, I'll explain a bit more about what that means. So, for example, a foreign power directs a student society to campaign against a UK government decision, and the society then arranges a protest and seeks to influence their local MP. So the other tier is the enhanced tier, and this requires the registrations of arrangements to carry out activities within the UK at the direction of a specified foreign power or entity, currently Russia and Iran, and activities carried out in the UK by specified foreign power controlled entities. Don't have to worry about this second point too much as a club or society. As I said, currently the two specified powers are Russia and Iran, but more may be added. And activity under this cannot begin until the formal or informal agreement has been registered, and it must also be made registered within 10 days of it being made. So, whilst most activities would likely fall under the first tier, direction from the specific powers falls under this tier. And again, foreign powers being, foreign heads of state, government departments, or other government agencies that have been identified by the UK government as posing a greater risk to national security. And obviously, the enhanced tier requires registration of a wider range of activities being relevant by the scheme, including organising events, undertaking projects, or sharing information. And the maximum penalty for this enhanced tier is 5 years imprisonment. Again, it is the trustees at the SU who that would apply to in the event of it taking place, not you as committee members. So, as I said, there are a few key terms within the legislation that are crucial to understand, so I'm going to talk you through these now. These sections will be a bit more in depth and include some examples. So the first of which is political influence. I've said that goodness knows how many times already during this presentation. So, to be registerable, the activity has to be for the purpose of influencing UK public life, for example, elections, decisions of the government, or members of either House of Parliament or the devolved legislatures. Political influence activities involve communications to senior decision makers, such as UK ministers, election candidates, MPs, or other senior civil servants. It also includes certain communications to the public where the source of the influence is not already clear, and disbursement of money, goods, or services to UK persons for political purposes. An activity is considered a political influence activity if it meets both of the below criteria. So, criterion 1, the activity is one of the following: a communication, e.g. an email, letter, meeting to a senior public official or politician, a public communication, so like an article, or the provision of money, goods, or services to an individual entity in the UK, e.g. providing consultancy services. And activities are only in the scope of FIRS if they are carried out in the UK. The second criterion is if the purpose or one of the purposes of the activity is to influence one of the following: an election or referendum in the UK, a decision of a minister or government department, the proceedings of a UK registered political party, such as a manifesto commitment, or a member of the House of Lords, Northern Ireland Assembly, Scottish Parliament, etc., when acting in their capacity. So, formal responses to UK government consultations or invitations to tender don't require registration, and as they are not sort of direct communication to a senior public official or politician, but other communication outside of the formal response may still require registration if made to a relevant individual. Apologies, some technical issues. So for the purpose of criterion 1, a public communication could include, but is not limited to, an article in a newspaper, magazine, or journal, whether available to a wider audience or only subscribers, information published on a website, a document available for download on a website, a social media post, an online blog post, or a speech made in a public setting. The communication would have to be made in a UK publication or intended for audiences within the UK before it's considered as taking place in the UK. And for criterion 2, an election constitutes or includes general elections, elections to the parliaments, local government elections, elections to police and crime commissioners, and local mayors, etc. And again, registrations only required where activity is carried out in the UK, for example, where a meeting with a member of parliament occurs in the UK. So it doesn't matter if the arrangement is made in the UK or overseas, or where the parties of the arrangements are based. Becomes a bit more convoluted if an activity starts abroad but has effect in the UK, so that may fall under the scope of registration. For example, an email sent from abroad seeking to influence a minister of the UK government, a payment remitted from abroad to a person in the UK, obviously in order to influence a political matter, or information posted on a foreign website which is clearly targeted at a UK audience. For example, information which is specifically targeted at UK voters. Or a meeting held virtually whereby individuals abroad seek to influence senior civil servants in the UK about a government decision. So, some example. I'm not going to go through the first lot all on screen because you can see them and you can sort of read those in your own time. But yeah, a letter to a minister encouraging them to impose tougher regulations, a letter to the head of a political party encouraging them not to make a particular policy, or indeed a newspaper article making policy recommendations where it's not clear how it's been written and published with regards to the direction of a foreign power. But I will expand a little bit more on those that are not political influence activities. So the first example, an email to a general inquiry mailbox outlining the case why an application could be considered. This doesn't meet criterion 1 as the communication is not made to a senior public official or politician. The second one about an article published seeking to influence UK government decisions where it's clearly labelled that it's written or published at the direction of foreign governments. This would not meet the first criterion as it's reasonably clear that it's at the direction of a foreign power. The next example, a meeting with a mayor or councillor intended to influence a local government decision. This wouldn't meet criterion 2 unless it was also intended to influence a national government decision. Or an article published encouraging British tourists to visit a foreign country. This wouldn't meet criterion 2 as it's not seeking to influence a political matter. Or an evening reception intended to encourage UK nationals to invest in a foreign country. This wouldn't meet criterion 2 as it's not seeking to influence a political matter. So what's an arrangement? This one's pretty simple, but an arrangement includes, but again is not limited to, a formal arrangement such as a contract, a non-legally binding agreement such as a memorandum of understanding, an order or a similar agreement for a good or service to be followed up with a bill, invoice, or indeed an informal quid pro quo agreement. So what's a foreign power? So a foreign power is defined as any of the following: a sovereign or another head of a foreign state, foreign government or part of a foreign government, an agency or authority of a foreign government, an authority responsible for administering the affairs of an area within a foreign country, for example, a local government authority, or a political party, which is a governing party of a foreign government, and an entity must be considered agency or authority of a foreign government if the entity carries out public functions on behalf of the government, e.g. overseeing implementation of government decisions, responsible for enforcing laws, or carrying out practical or administrative work. And again, a political party is the governing political party of the foreign government if either individuals working for the government hold their post as a result of being members of that party, or the political party directs or controls those working for the government in carrying out their official functions. Again, foreign political parties which are not the governing party of that foreign country are not foreign powers. So what's a direction? So direction is an order or instruction to act with which a person is obliged or compelled, whether formally or informally, to comply. So a request from a foreign power is considered a direction if any of the following apply. The foreign power has power or authority over the person. There's an element of control or expectation to the request. A benefit to be offered as a result of conforming with the request, or there is coercion or threat alongside the request. So obviously the ordinary meaning is an order or instruction to act, and this could be delivered in the language of the request, but only where there is a power relationship between the person and the foreign power, which adds that element of control or expectation for the request. For example, through a contract, payment, coercion, or future promise, for example. It's not enough for a foreign power to fund an activity, and I'll talk a bit more about funding in the next slide. Generic requests, joint collaboration, or simply an alignment of views absent this power relationship will not meet the test for direction. There also needs to be a link between the direction and the political influence activity. This is condition 3 for condition 3 to be met. For example, if you receive a general direction or funding from a power but choose to carry out political influencing activity not directly connected to the direction of funding, then the condition would not be met. So funding. So as I said, whilst funding from a foreign power does not in itself constitute direction, it may form a part of the direction if it has conditions attached to it for it to be used in a particular way. So unrestricted grants, which give the grantee autonomy to choose the funding in a way in which they see fit, are not considered a direction. Where individual organizations apply for a form of funding, e.g. a grant from a foreign power, and that grant, approved without specific conditions being placed on it, again, not a direction. And funding for education arrangements, are exempted under the enhanced tier. So where a student receives financial assistance from a specified foreign power while completing education in the UK, they don't need to register any activities that are reasonably necessary to continue or complete their course and participate fully, uphold the reputation of the financial provider or the university educational institution, or meet standards of conduct reasonably expected by the provider. So what do you do if you don't know? So there are important safeguards, in the event that there is a registration arrangement that you're unaware of. There are safeguards for individuals who have no way of knowing that they're acting under a registrable arrangement. So this applies when the activities are solely academic with no suggestion of foreign power direction. They're working with a state-linked entity but have no reason to know of that state direction, or the objectives, aren't strategic or political objectives of the state itself. So I'm going to talk a bit more about when and how you register. As a reminder, those are the 4 conditions that need to be met for registration to be required. And again, it's the arrangement itself, not the activity, that needs to be registered. And again, the timeline for doing so in Tier 1 political influence is 28 days, and enhanced tier is 10 days, and the activity can't begin until it's registered. So there's a registration checker online, which can be used to check that the arrangement meets, the necessary conditions. And if it does, registration is then made online via a form. And again, it is the SU team who would make this registration, using the information that you provide. So what are your responsibilities as committee members? So as I've mentioned, it's our responsibility as an SU to register any arrangements, and this is because the SU's clubs and societies or groups are not separate legal entities to the SU as an organisation, as a charity. So you need to inform us, of any arrangements or proposed arrangements that may meet the criteria of the scheme. If registration is required, you obviously have to provide all the necessary details for registration and any changes or updates in the futures. And if there is a registrable arrangements, you also have a legal duty to inform society members of this arrangement. Ultimately, obviously, if you're not sure, just ask. It's absolutely best to be as cautious as you can. If you think possibly there may be an element of political influence, there may be a direction, or any, if you think any of the conditions are met, you should absolutely get in contact with us. So you can contact your coordinator. So that's Jasmine for societies, and that's Tom for sports, or the general activities mailbox, which you can see on the screen. And obviously, all contact relating to FIRS will be treated confidentially unless there is perceived threat to your or others' safety. So as you'd expect, we do have to make some changes to our policies and processes to ensure that we are meeting the requirements of the scheme. So you will now be required to declare if an event, activity, or guest speaker that you're planning involves an arrangements with a foreign power to carry out the political influence activities, and if it doesn't, you need to tell us why. So if you're unsure, considering the funding for the event and the intended outcome, do any of these meet the criteria for a direction of political influence activities? And again, if you're not sure, just get in contact with us. And also, when you affiliate or re-affiliate, you will be required to declare if there are any arrangements that are or need to be registered, and also any external funding, because as I mentioned, that can be one of the ways that we can check if there is the possibility for an arrangement. So we're going to finish with examples of when registration is and when registration would not be required. So the example you can see on screen would require registration. So a student society at a UK university is directed by the government of country P to sign a petition and campaign against a UK government decision to limit imports and exports to and from country P. So the society organises a protest at the uni and invites their local MP to attend, and then at this protest they seek to influence the MP into joining their cause and change the UK government's position. So the society would have to register as they are in an arrangement with the government of country P, that's the foreign power, from whom they receive funding. That is the direction in this case, to undertake campaigning and activities to influence a government decision. That is political influence activities. So, two examples of registration not being required. So taking a similar example, the society within a UK university lodged a petition against a recent UK government decision to limit the imports and exports. They write to their MP and persuade him to support their cause. So society would not have to register as they are not in arrangement with a foreign power. And the second example, similar as well. The government, again, of country P, directs the student society within the UK university to carry out campaigning activities within the uni, including on-campus demonstration and speeches against a visiting speaker who is critical of country P. Society doesn't have to register in this case as they have not undertaken political influence activity. However, it would require registration under the enhanced tier if the government of country P had been specified. So at this time, if country P was Russia or Iran. So where can you go to for further guidance and support? So outside of this video and the slides, there's also an FAQ section on the first section of the committee hub where you will have found this video. And if you have any questions or if you're unsure, please email your coordinator, the activities team, or myself. You can see my email on screen there. Thank you very much for your time. And you do also now have to complete the questionnaire to demonstrate that you've watched this video, you've understood it, and you have a clear understanding of your responsibilities. Thank you.